Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And thank you for joining us for our last special edition of the Team by Team analysis, Chris.
It has been a long journey, my friend, but I'm glad that we finally got there.
A very long journey. When you look at 30 minutes to 45 on average per team, obviously less for North Melbourne folk. It does really round out. And look, we hope you have appreciated this series. It's definitely probably one of the only times that we spend a lot of depth looking at draft leagues, etc. This is a time of year for drafts at the moment where people are trying to work out their list, etc. Good news is the draft list and the spreadsheet we have done is completed. I've just got to do a couple of tweaks and then tweaks.
Just a little one.
And we
Scusi.
will release that on the line. And if you like it, please do reciprocate that love in some way. And we like them frothy.
We do. Well, you like them frothy. I like
and
them.
I'm enjoying the benefits of Chris not drinking right now. So
and I am reaping all the benefits.
Yes. He's losing his mind. and I'm reaping all the benefits. Man, what a
Such
good movie.
Such a classic movie, The Wedding Singer.
It is.
It's just got a lot of one-liners. It's like, I got punched in the face for sticking my nose in other people's business.
Sounds like a contra song. Oh, Chris, what a lovely journey this has been.
Good times.
Yes.
Great classic hits.
Very, very, very good times. But before we move on, you can find us on all the socials, SC Insider 100. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes.
And YouTube.
Google Podcast, Stitcher, Twitch, YouTube, on the line. Search for us, and it's Supercoach Insider.
We're also on Twitch, and we will be doing a couple of live stuff soon. So keep an eye on that. It is also SC Insider 100, and we'll be doing a couple of live segments on there just so we can get some feedback, interact with people in their teams, and advise on who they should or shouldn't get.
So if you are new to Supercoach Insider, funnily enough, what a great name. And just a little reflection period.
Just a little bit of a...
Yeah, we just
tap on the old
we thought long and hard about that. Then there was some douchebag that named his Supercoach Outsider just to try and troll everyone.
I wonder if that guy's coming back.
Nah, surely not.
He's probably that Hawthorn supporter that got butthurt.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he did.
Or he moved out.
Enjoy that bottom four.
Or he moved out with Darren Glass. Talking about butt hurt and bottom four. Bottoms. Anyway. But look, if you have, we are extremely humbled.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, we just, once a year doesn't, anyway. We're extremely humbled. We have loved the reception. We started out as just a couple of guys who wanted to get together and this is horrible. A couple of guys. Oh no! What is happening here? Oh wow! Right now,
let's just get into it then, shall we?
No, I'm finishing.
All right.
Oh wow!
This podcast is going straight to the pool room. You better lock it up.
Yes, no, but extremely humbled. We're just a couple of guys who wanted to get together. We talk a lot of footy, so we thought, hey, we should just start our own podcast. And it just happened to coincide with the year that one of our favourite podcasts left, and then also the Jock Reynolds one kind of wound down into a different sort of format. So we are extremely humbled, and we haven't been. Aren't you humbled, Chris? We didn't expect that this would actually crack off, and we've had, I think it's like over 200,000 listens over the last 3.5 years or 3 years, full season. So appreciate it. Thank you for the love. Anyway,
excellent. All right, well, let's get into it with the West Coast draft. Now they entered the draft very, very late. Not until pick 52 did they have any action, and they picked up Luke Edwards. He's 188 centimeters and 83 kilo mature age recruit. Out of Glenelg in South Australia. He's actually Tyson Edwards' son and has been overlooked by the Crows for the past 3-4 years before finally landing at West Coast. So a guy that's been on AFL radars for a while, but obviously, he hasn't really picked up his game since high school. So
just having one look at that crook-looking bastard, you could tell he didn't play sport, couldn't you?
Yeah, well, look, He's obviously, due to his height, he's a medium defender. He can rebound the football. He can play intercept as well. So he's a very versatile defender. You empty there, mate. Yeah. I need to go get another. I'm quite parched as well. We probably jumped into this a little too quick. But he's obviously got the pedigree, and so they're going to put a little bit of time into him, see if he can develop into something at senior level. And realistically, there wasn't much around at this pick for someone like a West Coast. So they're really just gone to try and improve their depth. Moving across, the next one, Isaiah Winder. He's 180 centimeters and 79 kilos. He is another one out of Peel Thunder. And so he was he's more of a leading small forward type. And I don't think, again, he's going to have any sort of relevance this season. But he was obviously a mature age. So if, they have a few injuries, anything can happen and you could see some of these guys in. I don't think he's on the radar to pretty much at all start again this year. But, stranger things have happened. And last one they got was a rookie, and they got Zane True, 185 centimeters and 80 kilos out of Swan Districts. So another one who's a mature age recruit. So they really didn't go for any youth or development. They just went for some depth just in case they get some injuries. And you can tell by their list, and for the last few years, they've had a very settled list and they have very little list movement because their best 22s is pretty set. So, I suppose we'll jump into that 22. Oh, before I do...
Did you speak about their inclusion? The trade in for Peanuts?
Sure. No, what, when?
Witherden. Did you speak about...
Oh, no. Why would I speak about that when I'm talking about rookies?
Well, you're talking about list changes and possible spots?
No, I didn't.
They have no rookies.
The one that I think has a potential to actually start is a guy that's been there for a couple of years by the name of Luke Foley. He's been going around a little bit in circles at the moment because he's been playing in defence in the intra-clubs on the probables teams. So if you don't know much, a lot of the times in intra-clubs, they'll split the two teams into possibles and probables. And he's been playing a lot on those probables teams. So there is a chance that he does go early. He was highly touted when he was actually drafted. And I really like Luke Foley. I was big on him, I think, last year or the year before I was big on Luke Foley.
Yeah, Foley's been biding his time. He's waiting for Beverly Hills Cop 4 to start.
I do love a bit of Axel.
Yeah, Axel Foley.
Well done. But he's a medium defender as well, 187 centimeters. The thing about Foley and about that position on the ground for them is that they have a lot of medium defender types that have already been blooded. So you've got guys like Tom Cole, that have, I wouldn't say they're cemented into the 22, but they've played enough games to think that they warranted a chance in that 22. And there's probably two or three of those guys. Luke Foley is one of them. So I hope that he gets a run early and keep an eye out for him in the preseason because there is a chance that he debuts round one. And I actually have him in my sneaky 22. So we'll go through that now. All right. So from the back line.
You know what I like, Chris, is that you talk about how the rookies have no security and how you're scared about starting any of them, yet you're starting at least three that you've said are on your team that no one's heard of. So I do like your encouragement and enthusiasm and depth in your research, but aren't you scared?
Who hasn't anyone heard of?
Aren't you scared? You're talking about like Foley. You had a couple others who I'm like, oh, great depth. Like a couple other players. You're like, yeah, they're on my field, like a Melbourne forward pocket and these things.
Oh, Bailey Laurie? No, he's going to start, bro.
I know. I'm saying for the people at home, it's kind of like you say, oh, I'm worried about depth and I'm worried about rookies. And you're like, oh, I've got this obscure rookie, this obscure rookie, this obscure rookie.
Yeah, and there is a few.
But it sounds like there's a little bit more of a spot for them specifically, though.
Yeah, the problem's job security with those guys. It's like, yeah, you might go round one, but what about round 3, round 4, round 5? Like, how do we get you there? So you do got to, I mean, this year more than any is going to be a little bit of a guessing game, unfortunately. So best 22 from the back line, Brad Shepherd, who's been absolutely amazing the last couple of years and just keeps getting better.
Shep's just rounded him up, Chris.
Yeah, he is. With his little hook. What's that name of that thing? I don't even know. Barras at fullback with Hearn in the pocket. Witherden, I've got starting. So there's been a bit of conjecture about Witherden as to whether or not he's best 22.
He is.
I don't know how you get Witherden and don't put him in your starting lineup.
I think it's because he wasn't best 22 at Brisbane, but what they don't realise is they did have Luke Hodge previously, right? Taking that. Then they brought in Birchall, and they played Birchall basically telling Witherden, you're not good enough. We're going to play Old Man Rivers, and you're going to wait your turn. And then at the end of it, they go, oh, you know what? We don't really need you.
Well, there is a reason why I think there's a spot available, and I'll get to that when I finish the 22. But I do think Witherden starts at halfback flank alongside McGovern and Foley on the other halfback flank.
Wow.
So I think there's definitely a spot for both of them. Then I've got Redden on the wing with Shuey and Sheed. On the half forward line, I've got Cripps, Darling, and Petruccelli. And in the forward line, I've got Ryan Kennedy and Oscar Allen. So I've gone with the one ruck system with Nick Nat starting and Allen chopping out, as opposed to having Vardy start. And then we've got Tim Kelly and Andrew Gaff in there too. Now, here's where it gets interesting. On the interchange bench, I've got Duggan, who has been touted to be moving into the midfield to replace essentially Elliot Yeo early in the season, and then see how it goes. Now, I'll get into a little bit more later because I like the Duggan pick. The problem is Yeo's injured early. How many games is he out for? Who knows? When he comes back, is he going to go midfield? Who knows? Because Yeo can obviously play behind the ball. If he's not up to it, he might actually not go into that midfield.
Yep. Or he could also play forward flank. He could play anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So Duggan's sort of that guy that he's got an opportunity. It might be 5 rounds, 6 rounds, whatever it might be, to secure a midfield spot in this group. And I think he might do it. It's a really interesting price point, but I'll chat a little bit more about him later. I do have Waterman in there as well as Hutchings, and I've got Brander in there because he just provides a little bit of flexibility, can play behind the ball, in front of the ball, and on the wing. And he did play quite a few games last year, but they do obviously have a lot of depth in that side. As I mentioned, Yeo, but he's injured early. Zach Langdon, they got across from GWS. I think that he's a shout. He could even replace one of those guys on the bench. I think he's really talented and I really like him. Just not sure where he fits over there in the West. Vardy, of course. Venables is another one that's had a frequent go at it. As I said, Tom Cole. Rotham's another one of those halfback flankers that could get another gig. Archie's talented. And then Willie Rioli, and we don't really know what's happening with that, so I can't really see him starting at all, unfortunately. But yeah, there's the 22.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when Yeo comes back in, who do you think's first one out of that side?
Well, it could be Brander, it could be Foley. It depends on how he comes back. Like, is he coming back as a midfielder?
Well, it doesn't really matter. They can shuffle around.
They can.
I mean, Redden can push, one side or the other. I think it's going to be really interesting. For me, I think probably Hutchings. I think Hutchings is there just as backup. I think he's a depth player. He was good. He used to tag, and then he's a rookie price now too.
The thing I find with Hutchings is that sometimes they just play Hutchings because they don't like. He's just in the 22, and he just gets thrown around everywhere. Like, he doesn't necessarily have defined roles sometimes, but he's obviously best utilized as a tagger. But some games he just doesn't have a role. So he might play on the half forward line. He might play in a wing. He might play all over the park.
Or he might not play at all.
Yeah, exactly right. So he's in and out of that side. I do think that you start with him. I'm of the opinion, I love taggers. I love, like, from an AFL, not a Supercoach perspective, but from an AFL perspective, there's a place for tagging in our game. And I don't know why more clubs don't do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. The first thing that I would do as a coach is 100% have a negator on your list that you can target their best midfielder. I just don't know why more coaches don't do it. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think you're reaching on Hutchings. He did used to be a pretty good option for around an 80-odd average. He played 3 games last year for an average of 29.3. In 2019, he played 16 rounds, so a bit more. He averaged 50. And
it's not a good option for Supercoach.
Well, he's 150K. He's a rookie price player. And even then, 2018 played 17 rounds at an average of 66. So
he was injured last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, or, I don't know.
I'm gonna Google that and find out. I'm sure that he was injured and that's why he wasn't playing.
Sure. Shall I move on to Nick Nat Nui?
You should, mate.
Wonderful. Nick Nat Nui, he is 593K. I'm actually a little surprised some people are starting him this year. He is not that much cheaper than Grundy. Yes, he's cheaper than Gawn. It was his highest return since 2012. So people are getting excited because he tore up at the back end of last year. And if his body does hold up, he is someone who could definitely average you 120 for the year. So I get the appeal. The reason that people think this, though, is that he averaged 126 the last 8 rounds. He averaged 95, though, the first 8. So he came back in. He obviously, from injury, started a bit slow, had less time on ground. He built that back up and in. And he averaged really well the back end of the year. So when you look at it, he averaged 113 the last 7 rounds. He had 10 hundreds for the season, 6 of those 119 or more, with a good ceiling, 135, 137, 154. It's an interesting one. Actually, no, so that's a little not healer there. Sorry, 7 120s, 137, 143, 146, 146, 153. That's his. I was reading below for Gaff. Interesting. Segue.
Wow.
Anyway, so Nick Naitanui averaged 110. People see him as someone who can average 120. I think if his body holds up, it could be. Am I picking him in draft? No, I think he still has that high injury risk. Am I picking him in standard? No, I think there are better options. Would I be surprised if he averaged me 110 again? No. Could he average 120? Yes, but there's a lot of risk there, Chris. Would you take that risk on Nick Nat?
There's no chance.
Not even just for a point of difference.
Nope.
No, me
I
either.
don't see the point in doing that ever.
No, me either. Gaff is 570K, average 106.2. Now, he did say I might take a little bit of that midfield slack with those guys, so the rest of the players in their team, and maybe get 1 or 2 rotations a quarter in the midfield. So he is a winger. He's going to be playing on the wing, but he is saying that now that you have longer quarters and less rotations, when everyone's trying to get a rest, Gaff is an absolute jet, and he'll probably take 1 or 2 rotations into the centre when other people are resting.
Yeah, and just on Hutchings, he had knee and hamstring problems last year. So, yeah, that's the only reason he wasn't playing.
Yes.
Well,
So his body sucks. How old is Hutchings? Do you have that?
I can get it for you. Jesus, you want everything? Bloody hell. Look, there's every chance that Mark Hutchings can play. I don't think he's going to score well, though.
I'll make it up to you,
He's rookie
Chris.
priced, so who cares?
I'll make it up to you. You find that. Okay, so interesting that we did say with Gaff, he did average 113 in the last 7 rounds. This is where he had 1000, 6 scores of 119 or above, and he actually scores 11 Supercoach more.
He's 30 this year.
Oh, there you go. So I told you I'll make it up to you.
Was it Grundy? It's Grundy!
Yeah, my boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gaff averaged 11 Supercoach points more without Yo in the side, because I think he had a little bit more of that inside rotation, which means that he was probably more of a 95 sort of guy, which kind of...
I don't like Gaff at all.
No. And he goes on runs. He goes big, and then he just like flops on a massive hill and then does nothing. And then you pick him up cheap, and all of a sudden he goes, comes up and has a little good run again.
He's been a okay Supercoach selection over the years, but he's never been top tier, ever. And I don't know why you'd be spending $570K on a guy that's not top tier.
Not top tier unless you actually had a position for wingers. I think for wing,
as I said,
yeah, he'd be a top
good.
tier wingman. Him and McCluggage, awesome wingman, right?
If I could just play McCluggage in standard, I'd be so happy right now.
Yeah, if there's like a wing bonus, wingman.
I'll give him a ring bonus. Except it's not a bonus,
Anyway,
it's a bonus.
Tim Kelly is someone I think has a lot of value in draft. Possibly, I wouldn't go there in standard, but we had the big issue when he had the small family, a young family, issues in Geelong, etc. Then you go home to Perth and you think everything's all peachy. Next minute, COVID hits and it's like, oh crap, now he's on the road, he's in a COVID bubble, can't see his family. That must have sucked. And I think he is someone who probably maybe did struggle with that a little bit. Still had the potential, still had the ceiling, but his consistency definitely was not there. Whether he is someone who won't have consistency in general, it's a hard one to know.
He went from a midfield of being the main extractor to having a stacked midfield. Don't get me wrong, Geelong obviously had a good midfield, but they generally, the way that they set up their midfield when Kelly was there was that basically he was the number 1 mid, Danger was the far forward rotating into mid, and then you got Duncan and Selwood extracting the ball to Kelly, who would be on the burst out. He's gone to West Coast and they haven't set it up that way. They don't set up the same. Luke Shuey's the main guy to try and extract that out. So I like Kelly, and I think that he can average a lot more. For a season, it's hard for him to do, and I'm not sure if that's his body or he's too susceptible to a tag or whatever it might be. But he seems to go on these runs and then completely drops off the ship.
Yep. So we had highs of 140, 150, 180, but then some of them had crap scores in between. He would just drop a 57, 61, 66, 68, and then you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, and that's why I've never really liked him look, he's only been in the system 3 years, Tim Kelly?
Yeah, but that's his scoring pattern in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, definitely.
No, this is me in a nutshell. Help! I'm in a nutshell. How did I get into this
Definitely
nutshell?
worth it.
Yes. Speaking of Witherden, we'll just touch there a smidge more. 456K. Yep. Last 5 rounds he played, he went 170, 85, 100, 101, 69. New move there. So, and apparently they've been impressed with his use off the halfback flank, and I think they do see him as a good Hearn replacement. Now, am I taking that risk this year in standard? No, I'm not. I think that I'd much rather Williams with that midfield role and more scoring history than taking a risk on Witherden.
I agree, but I don't think this year he's not replacing Hearn.
No, he's not.
He's replacing Jeddah.
Yes, I'm
That's
saying
who's
long-term replacement.
Yeah.
So for me, when Hearn retires, I'd be like, Witherden is probably one of the only ones who can actually extract that ball. So I would be looking at him then.
Yeah. I don't mind Witherden next year, and we'll get a year sample of how he flows into that.
I do agree. Elliot Yeo, 583k. Obviously, we spoke about already. Was it osteopubis, the OP hip, and
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing, but he's definitely
not good. And they did say that he is on track to return sometime early in the season. And I think he might have even had another little set. I don't know. It's one of those things that you're not going to know. He did average 107.6, 107.8 in 2018 and 2019. So he is someone that has talent. But I don't want to pick someone coming off no preseason into back to a normal length season with normal games and less rotations.
priced at 583k.
Good luck for someone who's going to be struggling to run.
Nope, not going to happen.
No, so even in draft leagues, I think at an average of 90, you could probably get him around there, but don't expect anything for the first half of the season.
No, and outside of Duggan, which I think we'll touch on now, the only really other one that has standard relevance a little bit is Shannon Hearn, and I don't even think he does anymore. I think he's done.
No, Hearn's, I think, cooked.
He's cooked.
Average 88.9, so he basically dropped to 100 and 10 points or so in average.
Here's what I'm worried about with Duggan. This is why I wanted to bring up Hearn first, is that if there is a injury in the defence, is Duggan the guy that goes straight back there? Because that's a risk you can't. I had a look at Duggan's scores, and what's great about this is that from round 9 onwards, when he was moved into midfield at the back end of last year, he averaged 98 Supercoach, which is pretty good for a guy that's a 450k defender. That puts you around about the same price. It's the same price pretty much as a Zach Williams for approximately the same return if you think he's going to average about 100. The problem is he going to keep that role? I know that regardless of what Williams does,
he will score.
He'll still score around about 100.
Yep.
So he could be in defence, he'll score 100. He could be midfield and he's got a scope to go higher, but he's going to score 100. Whereas Duggan, when he went behind the ball, he averaged about 65. So that's the only reason why I'm not considering him seriously for standard, is because I think that I don't know if he's going to be there for 22 games. And it's a big question mark and a big risk to take. But as a draft option, Duggan is awesome.
Yep. Not only that, if you start with Duggan, he starts banging off, right? Then easily you trade him to someone else, particularly those who don't pay as much attention in your league. The easiest pickings you will ever do.
Yeah. Now, I don't hate the selection in standard. I just, I'm wary of it. So if you are on the Duggan train, that's fine. Totally, I would not say it's a bad move. There's a definite potential that he goes 100.
Well, it's a risk reward.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, at that price. And look, unfortunately as well, and this is the other thing. So one of the things I'd love to be about Duggan is that he's more reliable with his body, but he's not. And he's not as reliable. He's still the same amount of reliability as Zach Williams with body-related issues. So,
and the big risk for me, Hearn is 34 years old this year, right? He averaged 85 the first 12 rounds. He averaged 96 the last 6, so he had a small glimpse. But he has, in the last 2 seasons, started to show some soft tissue injuries.
Yep.
And, it's going to be a long season. They're going to have to try and run more back into full-length games with less rotations. He's 34, having issues. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it could be easily that he gets a bit of, he pulls a hoolie and gets some calf soreness, etc. Next minute, Duggan has to go back there because he's first off the ranks. I mean, the one person who I think could actually be a bit more multidimensional, I think, is Jack Redden, because he's a good user. However, he's not the first one off the rank to go back.
Well, they've got Josh Rotham and they've got Tom Cole. Those guys are still on the bench, looking to try and get into that team. They also picked up this Luke Edwards guy, who is a intercepting defender that can play off the back. He's a mature age recruit. So there is guys to come in when Hearn goes down. How they actually manage that when it does happen, that will be the interesting thing to see how it happens and unfolds. So,
I just had a little flashback back to Heron. I was thinking of Cole, and I was like, oh, geez, if you get delisted, it'd be on the dole, and then he can join Heron, with the Panadol.
Classic. That was a really good reference.
I did like that Heron
Hopefully
one.
you've stayed with us for all of our team by team analysis
That
series.
was probably the call of the series, actually. That one off the cuff.
It could have been.
And I love the Heron jokes over the years.
Yeah, so do I.
Right.
Now, obviously, moving forward, guys like Jack Darling they've got scope for development. Liam Ryan played absolutely off his head in the back end when he was basically played at full forward as a leading full forward.
Yeah, like a Jaden Stevenson.
Keep an eye on him because if he does manage to hold that role, I'm not sure he does with a full complement of players, but definitely one to watch in draft. I wouldn't recommend him in standard, but 100% watch him in draft because I will pick him up somewhere for sure.
So what do you think he can average an 80 plus?
Oh, easily. No, let's have a look at his back end scoring. He went absolutely
I know he did go
gangbusters.
absolutely gangbusters, but it's going to be an interesting one. Darling is another one, as we spoke about already, 29 years old. He's had potential for a long time. He averaged 92 the last 9 rounds, but he averaged 66 the first 6. I think he's done that 2 years in a row. Chris Darling has started extremely slow and then come through with some goods. Not a bad one for draft leagues, considering that forwards did get shafted. It's not too unrealistic that Darling couldn't actually try and piece something together. I think he averaged an 80 for last year, so there's some scope there.
Round 14 onwards, Liam Ryan went 97, 109, 100, 119, 100.
Boy, oh boy,
That's
wowee.
a guy that averaged 76 on the season. He can definitely be a last forward in your draft squad. So write that down.
So what is 100? Geez, that's
Write that down.
what's he averaging? Yeah, write that down.
Write that down.
It'll be over 100. Yeah, definitely be over like 105.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's not bad. Not bad at all. Interesting one there. Yeah, so back to Jack Darling quickly. Average 86.9 in 2018, 84.5 in 2019. Forwards got shafted at 80.9, so he is someone who I think has a bit more scope to improve this year by at least 5 points in draft leagues.
Yep, I agree.
But you get what you pay for.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I mean, Josh Kennedy, I don't know. I just don't.
No.
I'm not interested anymore. He's done.
I think
cooked.
I think he is absolutely cooked, and I honestly do now think it is Darling's forward line to run the roost off. He has to be that commander in chief. He has to be the Hawkins of West Coast.
Yeah, but he needs he's got backup in Oscar Allen, so it'll be interesting to see how they transition Kennedy out of that forward line moving forward. I really like Waterman. Waterman's been awesome when he's played. So maybe they just change up the way they forward line. I know some they've traditionally been a very big setup. They go the 3 tall setup, and teams are transitioning to more of a 2 tall setup. So
More versatility.
yeah,
I was gonna say maybe Kennedy will get the presidential send off.
that was
that a bit harsh?
That one you wrote down, or
No, not at all.
okay, because that was terrible. I just wanted you to know. Is that a fail?
No, not at all.
Fail button?
For you,
I'd hit the fail button.
yeah. For you, interesting. So, what do you think? Who takes the small forward spots apart from say Liam Ryan? So you got Jared Cameron, Jamie Cripps, these kind of types. Who do you see them doing?
Well, this season,
Yeah.
Well,
assuming Willie Rioli is probably out of action
I've got Petruccelli. So
on the half forward flank.
yeah. I
And
do.
Ryan.
However, it definitely could be Venables. Archie could be there. Zach Langdon's the one that I really like. Right
no
now
Cameron.
Petruccelli adds that X factor.
No Jared Cameron.
No, I like him as well. I do like him.
Interchangeable though, really, isn't he?
Yeah, all of those guys are going to be rotating 3. Petruccelli adds something that they don't really have. So, especially since Jet is gone, that entire team is now very, very one-paced.
Petruccelli definitely a need.
They need the pace that Petruccelli offers them. Otherwise, they will be very, very slow across the field.
Yes. Now, that pretty much wraps us up, Chris. Now, before we leave, it's the last episode, which is only fitting that we have a little special tribute. This goes back to, what year, 2018?
Actually, did you know that this is just a tribute?
This
you
is just
gotta
a tribute.
believe me, and I wish you were there. No?
Just a matter of opinion.
Yes. Sorry. We could keep going if you want. Sorry, I'll let you go. I just went on a tangent, which is kind of what
Tangent. Couldn't remember.
I did. I'm actually going to karaoke Wednesday night. You should come.
Busy. Anyway, flashback. Was it 2018? When was Collingwood good for that 1 year, Chris? 2018. 2018.
Oh, no, this is not
Chris
a good flashback. I
Is,
don't want it.
you didn't mention your boy.
No, I don't want it.
Dom Sheed.
No, I don't want
Chris in the pocket, and Dom Sheed's lining up.
I thought that we could actually get through this podcast without mentioning Dom Sheed.
No, I waited to finish up. And you know why, Chris?
Right in front of me. Right in front of me.
It was right in front of me.
Right in front of me. Right in front of me. Right in front of me. Right in front of me.
Right in front of you.
it
Dom
was right in front
Sheed
of me.
has done nothing since break Collingwood's heart and get the keys to the city in 2018.
It was a rough night. Let's be honest.
Rough night. But that wraps us up. Look, do stay tuned. I think we have a couple little things planned depending on things in our lives in the short term. However, we will be doing some recordings, giving you our thoughts on what we've noticed coming into the Amy series.
Amy series, yep.
The Amy series, it's a 1-game round where we're going to really look at that, piece together what we've heard and seen from the other intra-club matches, etc. Try and give you some understanding on who we think and why, because it's going to be chaotic.
Yeah, so once the Amy series comes around, we'll at least do an Amy review, where we'll try and also do a rookie pod in there and the top 10. So there's going to be probably 3 podcasts that week.
Yes.
Week beginning, I think that week is the 7th or 8th of March is the end of that week. So
Yes, and for those on the YouTube, talking to George as well, Supercoach, trying to possibly do a little joint series there. So please comment if you are interested. If you do listen to George Supercoach, probably looking at doing our like top 3 premiums, midfield, mid prices, rookies, etc. on each line, or doing a little beginner podcast series as far as if you're a beginner, tips and tricks to sort of know how to start your side and that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that, please do comment so I know to invest time and effort on that.
I like it.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Anyway, that wraps us up. Chris, it's been a pleasure having you. And look, for everyone else out there, whatever you're doing, stay well, stay safe. And of course, above all else, do not pick. Who's your one player not to pick?
Oh, across the entire
One
thing.
player that you should not and will not pick.
Devon Smith.
Oh, I should have expected that. Why did I not expect that? No, someone relevant this year. Someone
I just
actually
read an article saying Devon Smith and Dylan Shield are going to be spending more time in the forward line.
Shield.
Yeah.
Oh,
which is good.
he
It's
misses.
good for Caldwell, right?
He misses everything
It's
out in
good
the
for
full. It
Caldwell.
is okay. So who are you avoiding? The one person you're going to avoid,
That a lot of people are picking.
or just someone that's hyped by someone you know closely?
Ugh, I don't know.
I'm going to say Guthrie. Fuck him right off.
No, Guthrie's going. Dude,
Overpriced, overrated.
he's
Move
going
him on.
well.
Yes,
love Guthrie.
I'll put you on the spot. We'll get you next time, guys. Look, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.